Are you guys enjoying the pizza? Enjoying the pizza?
Yes.
Okay, we're starting now. Okay, I'll be the first. My name is Clark. I represent the CDU Cybersecurity Club. What we do is learn about security, try to go to conferences, do some researches, and check out like cloud providers and create workshops on them, help other people build the community. So we also invite speakers from industries, outside industries, and also we try to create a bigger event some of the times. And we're really lucky that we have T-Mobile here with Kamal, Criss, and Ali contacting us. And so basically, if you want to get more updates on our events, please contact me, and I'll definitely give you an email blast whenever we have events like this. Thank you for coming, and next will be Cherry.
Thank you, Clark. So hi, my name is Cherry. I'm the business program representative here. So welcome to the event. I would like to introduce you to our career counselor to tell you a little bit about Career Center service, and here's Deirdre. I'll hold your applause. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. As Cherry said, my name is Deirdre Grimes. I run the Career Center here at CityU. They told me to keep it under a minute. So let me just say, I just want to talk about my students. They're absolutely amazing, amazing. And so I look forward to hearing from you recruiters and anybody who really wants to see my resume book. And I think we're going to work well together. And I know T-Mobile is wonderful as well. So I look forward to this. Hi, Ellie.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So next, we're going to get right into the presentation. And please help me welcome our presenter today, Kamal. And Mr. Kamal is our senior architect in PacBot.
Hello.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
How are you?
Good, great. Good pizza.
Great. So I think I don't need this for now. Let me know if somebody cannot hear me.
Please use that for the recording.
For recording?
Yeah.
Okay. So cloud and security. We are going to talk and touch upon these two areas today. Any experience anybody has on cloud? I know you are students and all that. Okay. What kind of experience? Yeah, you of course would have that. What kind of experience you have?
So I'm helping a small company to transfer their web application to the serverless.
Oh, that's nice.
AWS.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
When I was working in so in that I used to see the database check whether it was working proper or not in the cloud and see the functionality doing proper or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to check the security of the database or the external database.
Okay. That's nice. Anybody else? Okay. Security? Okay. No problem. So, you know, with the cloud, the security is becoming a challenge, right? And why? Any guesses why this is happening? What is there in cloud which was not there in traditional data center? That we have so many security challenges.
Some reason maybe it's because we can create the resource too easy.
Mm-hmm.
So we can easily create bunch of them, setting up and more complicated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hard to track. Yep.
Yeah. Actually, he's right. He's correct. So with the traditional data center, the problem was you have to wait for 3 months, sometime 2 months, or for some time to procure a server, then set it up in the data center and all that. So it was not that easy. Now with this cloud, I can spawn 1,000 servers just with a command, just in a click, right? So that has created a lot of security challenges, and T-Mobile, when we started our cloud journey, we knew that this is coming because the scale at which we operate usually, and we never wanted to stop somebody creating a server, because we always support agility and everything, right? So we don't want people to say, okay, hey, don't create a machine. Ask, take 10 approvals prior to creating a machine. So we wanted to have that agility, as well as we wanted to make sure that people are not denting holes in our security. So that is where we thought of creating a system. Back in 2016, we call that system as ASGC, which is Automated Cloud Security and Governance. And that has evolved to PacBot now. And I'm going to take you through what PacBot is, what it does, and everything around that. Yeah. So this is where T-Mobile's cloud journey started. 2014, 14, maybe go to cloud, just hit a button, try to create a VM, usually where everybody starts on cloud, and do a manual audits, have some security team who is doing manual audits on those, and then do the manual remediations also. Then we evolved, and we went to the next level, where it was we started having custom scripts. We started writing scripts which were doing all those tasks in a scripted way. I mean, we can now, at that time we were able to check it automated, but still with the help of some small scripts and all. In 2016 and 17 timeframe, we got an idea. Why not to build a system which have injectable rules, where you can continuously check the compliance of your cloud, and report the violations, and maybe auto-fix them, because it's all about code now. So we started developing Pacman. So that name Pacman is intentional, because at that time it was Pacman only. 2017 it was Pacman, and then we recently, when we open sourced it, because we were not able to use that name because of legal issues, we just chose to have PacBot. Then we started developing a system called Pacman, and now we are in a state that where with PacBot we are so secure that you cannot just open a S3 bucket or any resource in our cloud and keep it open for long. I mean, PacBot will detect it, send an alert. If you're not fixing it, it will fix it for you by itself. So today, that is the state of T-Mobile Cloud where we are in. So this is what the PacBot is. So what is a policy? I mean, you would have seen policies, right? It's a document usually. Usually it's a document which is written somewhere and probably read once a year to make sure that, okay, this thing is compliant, this is not. So all manual. What we did is some of our leaders, one of them is Nick, we thought that why not to convert that policy to code? Why somebody should go and read that policy once a year? I mean, do some tick, and okay, now we are compliant, next day you are not probably. So now, what we thought, we started converting all those policies into rules. And before that, what we did is we developed a system so that the conversion of policy into code can be federated. So it's not that only one developer, or we can, we have a team of 10 people. 10 people can write those policies as a code in any language, and then they can inject that into the system. So how Pacman works is you define the policy in code and just pick it out of the document. You inject that policy into the system, PacBot, which is then continuously gauging your compliance. So for instance, what Pacman is doing for let's say, so anybody who knows what is EC2, S3, or yep. Okay, so S3 for example, right? Simplest example. So S3 is a storage service from AWS, and it's very easy to just keep it open to internet, right? it's a bucket, S3 bucket, correct? You can store your objects. It's object storage. So it's very easy to keep data in that bucket, but it's equally easy to expose that to internet, to everybody. Today also, if you search S3, there will be thousands of buckets which you can find in Google, the hyperlinks to them open to internet, and you can read all that data. So a simplest example is one of the policy. What that policy is doing is checking every hour. It is checking that what all S3 objects we have, and are they open to internet. And there are many internal checks which we have built as a code, and then there are brute force also. Our code is going outside internet and trying to see if I'm able to access those objects from outside. So, and then if it found that there is a violation on any problem in there, it is going to report that as a violation. So that is assess, report, and then remediate. So the third important piece is, so once it reports that issue as a violation, there is no way in the system to go and say, okay, I have closed this issue. So there's no ticketing. The way you close an issue in PacBot is go and fix it. Either you go and fix it or PacBot will fix it. So there is no manual open a ticket, close a ticket. So you go, fix the issue, PacBot will reassess it and close the issue by itself. So there is no manual intervention in closing an issue or something like that. So this is the philosophy of Pacman: assess, report, remediate, and it's like continuous. So because Pacman is continuously assessing your infrastructure, it's continuous. It's assessing, it's reporting, it's remediating, assessing, reporting, and remediating. Any questions in this slide?
So with the remediation, does it immediately fixes your problem, or just gives you a prompt?
So it can be configured to give you a prompt. It can send you a Slack message. It can send you an email. It can, if the problem is severe enough, it can fix it immediately also.
Nice.
So there are configuration parameters which you can tune in to based on your requirements.
Would you explain later about policy and rules in folder?
Yep.
Traditionally, exploit system they put into the code, the engine, or what kind of approach you use?
So we don't. So engine doesn't have rule in itself. You can write a rule. So there is a contract which you have to follow, and with that contract you can write a rule. For example, I can take an example of Java. People familiar with Java in here? So a rule is an interface. You have to implement that interface, a contract to create a rule, right? So that is what a rule is.
If rule changing the engine, you have to change that code too.
Yes. If you want to change the rule, then of course you have to change the code and then inject it again. Yeah. You can version your rules.
So are you bypassing IAM, the group policy? So you're bypassing that? You use IAM for policy?
Sure. So
are you bypassing that in there?
in T-Mobile, we don't have a lot of IAM users because we use federated login. However, we do have some service accounts on AWS, the compliance of which is again checked by PacBot. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, that is a good point which I missed. So in addition to, I just gave Java. I just took the name Java because that was just in one language. You can do a serverless rule. So today, like you guys are already working on some serverless. For example, you can write. We just need a RESTful endpoint to invoke that rule. So you can write your rule in Azure Functions, in AWS Lambda or Google Functions, and configure that endpoint. And the rule engine will make sure that it calls your rule for every asset and make sure that you reply. If you don't reply, it will be flagged in the system. So yeah, so you are free to choose your rule language, Go, Python, whatever you serverless supports. You are free to choose. Okay, this is a bit more onto the system, how the system works. As the first point I have already kind of covered, policy or compliance rules. So they are written as code with readable metadata. resources are auto-discovered. So we have a proper ETL. Today, right? Today, the problem of cloud security is also a problem of big data. There is a lot of data about infrastructure. There is a lot of events. Like we in T-Mobile, we process around 10 million events every day just from the cloud, right? So PacBot, we process 10 million events every day. And that's a normal day. I mean, it's not that something is getting some iPhone is coming or something. That's a normal day when we process 10 million events. So for us, this is a problem of big data also, which we have solved. So continuously we have ETL processes which are going to all the cloud, which are collating the data from 10 other subsystems. I'll show that slide. So it's pulling all the data from 10 other subsystems and making sense out of it and making it searchable in Elasticsearch and all that. So that second point says so that means that resources are auto discovered. That means you need not to tell PacBot that, okay, I have created a resource in cloud. It will go and find out, right? So if you are doing something, it's auto discovered. Policy violations is logged to violation tracker. So yeah, so as soon as it discovered that there is a problem, like S3 bucket example I took, it is going to log that up. Resource owners are notified and remediation is provided, like you said. So there is a provision to configure that alerting. You can configure that if you created a bucket, you'll get a notification that you have done something wrong. Please fix it. Otherwise, we'll fix it. So yeah, next point is violation may be remediated automatically or manually based on compliance complexity of the remediation. As I said, violations are automatically closed when the problem is fixed. This is the last point I made. So you need not to go in the system and close the ticket. It will get closed automatically if you fix your resource. This is how our typical how a typical dashboard looks in PacBot. It's showing you the compliance of one of our AWS account. So there is patching compliance, certificate compliance, tagging, how many issues compliance, vulnerability compliance, and same is elaborated on other sites. So this is just to show how the UI looks like in PacBot. We do have so when it says patching, maybe not a candidate of this particular discussion, but there are plugins, there are additional plugins in PacBot with which you can gauge your other compliances, which is certificate patching and some more. Same here. PacBot will be able to assess your vulnerabilities, state, how vulnerable your cloud resources are. So there are vulnerabilities in the Linux systems, right? I am not sure if everybody knows there. So there are so again, I mean, it's a deep topic to touch on vulnerabilities, but there are some OS level, then the software level vulnerabilities, which Pacman will be able to auto discover and report. So that capability is there in PacBot. Okay, probably this will interest you most. A bit complex, but yeah, this is how today the PacBot architecture looks like. So as I said, we have a lot of ingesters here. So these are the plugins. These are the plugins collectors, which collects the data from all the systems you see on this side. So, and the ones which are in dark blue, they are already in place. One is which are lighter. We are still finishing them. So how it works is all the data from all these sources is collected back to our we call it data lake, PacBot data lake, where you see the PacBot persistent storage. It's made up of MySQL, Elasticsearch for fast query search capabilities, S3 bucket, DynamoDB, and Kinesis. Kinesis I'll touch upon just a bit late. And then this is the core. This is the core of PacBot, which is rule engine. It makes sure that your rules are invoked for each asset which we discover, and these are the components which are there in the rule engine. We did introduce some machine learning on rule engine, which is right now it will be able to detect the anomalies in your. So for example, yesterday you had 10 S3 bucket. Tomorrow suddenly you had you started showing up with 100. So probably it will say, okay, maybe there is a problem. Maybe there is somebody who accessed your infrastructure and created too many resources. So that capability we have started introducing unsupervised. Right now, the state of machine learning in PacBot is unsupervised. We are not doing any supervised machine learning, but that is inbuilt there. Then the front end is made on. Then we have a responsive Angular based. You saw some dashboards, right? They all are based built on Angular. We have a whole set of API exposed if you want to integrate some other systems with PacBot. So the same APIs are integrated to Slack, Alexa, and everywhere else. Even the Angular client is a consumer of those APIs. So this is how the architecture of PacBot looks like. Do you have any question on? Yeah, sure.
I'm surprised you. So you do a multi-cloud type of application. Cause I see that you're using also Google Cloud. And
So PacBot is a compliance system. Doesn't care where the data is coming from. So right now it is coming from AWS. We T-Mobile as a company we are going to adopt Google soon. Right now we are on Azure. So once you inject the data, you write a rule. It will work for that data set. It's not that you can just do AWS. It's happened to be that we started from AWS, but now it's a generic enough system that you can use to gauge the compliance of any data set.
can you do any at the same
Anything.
time?
We are already doing it for Bitbucket compliance, our development pipelines compliance. We are already doing it. So you get the data, you write a rule. Pipeline will make sure that the rule is running on this data. Yep.
To the extent that data is accurate, if they have a problem, cloud doesn't have, we get perfect inventory. Discover. To the extent that the information is accurate from the system, we test that back.
So let me get this straight. If you did 3 interactions with 3 different cloud services, you write a rule for each one of those.
That's correct.
clouds.
That's correct. Because AWS will have a S3 bucket, Google would have something else, and Azure would have something else. They have object storage, I guess.
And they
So the API to check that, everything methods to check that will be different. So you write 3 different rules. One rule cannot work for all those. So you write a data domain specific rule. So AWS is AWS rules, Bitbucket rules, something else is something else rules.
So I've seen that you have other security assessment tools there. So does it mean that PacBot will be looking into those assessments, and
Yes.
Apple will be the one
Yes.
doing?
So what we do is, for example, I'll take an example of Qualys. What PacBot is doing is we get all the data from cloud, we get all the data from on-prem. We get all the data from Qualys, and that's how we print the vulnerability report. We try to match it. So we massage the data and we try to make sense of it using getting the data from multiple sources. Yeah. So yeah.
So I actually have a question. So you said we can customize the rules, but if we use this software, could we get a default best practice rules out of the box?
Yes.
Okay.
So today we have 165 rules, out of which I think we have open sourced 50, which are already there in Git repo. I have QR codes for our Git repo and all. You guys can just take a click and you can visit to start.
Sure.
So how did that impact your security? Because you got a lot going on if you write 3 different policies. Let's say that scenario, and they need to. Can communicate. How did that, you know, those three different clouds have to communicate with each other? How does that impact your security? Because that's a lot going on in activities. Really.
That's true. But can you rephrase that question?
How does that impact the security of cloud when you're writing three different policies, three different, let's say in the scenario, three different clouds.
Yeah,
that you're
it's
in.
just maybe it's a little bit of a side conversation, but T-Mobile has a multi-cloud strategy, but we're primarily AWS. Secondary is Azure, and then it's still kind of.
Okay.
There's not a lot of overlap, so we wouldn't. Our strategy is not that. Oh, now you can go create infrastructure as a service VMs on any one you feel like.
Okay.
We can always stick with Amazon today as our preference. So we use a different cloud provider because there's a service. There's a particular reason why that service in that cloud is better than what we have today. So yes, we might go out and write the same rules kind of as a baseline.
Right.
But we wouldn't expect to be running like a lot of the identity protection systems in all three clouds.
Yeah, great. Sure. Good. So this is a slide showing all the capabilities PacBot had today. Not everything may make sense for the cloud. Because as I said, we are using PacBot. It started as a AWS compliance system, but now it's a generic system to gauge the compliance of any data set. So there are some domains which we are using it for, but these are the typical capability slide where PacBot has compliance assessment, continuous monitoring, dynamic perspectives. Dynamic perspectives is so in a enterprise, right? Teams own resources, right? So we PacBot work on top of T-Mobile assets, but maybe my team, I want to just see my assets. I am not bothered about what other team is doing. So you can create those dynamic perspectives in PacBot to see just your resources. That can be, and those can be built based on your attributes from the resources. So let's say you want to see all the S3 buckets where the name starts with Kamal. You will be able to build that perspective and see the data compliance based just on that. We call it asset groups in PacBot. Yeah. So these are all the capabilities we have in PacBot. Okay. I think I have covered. Yeah. So one of the feature which I didn't cover, I guess, is exception management. So what happens is sometimes there is a need to have a S3 bucket public. I'm taking S3 bucket. I'm just continuing the example of S3 bucket. So sometimes there is a need of having S3 bucket public because you want to publish a website or which is public facing. So what happens in that case? I mean, PacBot is going to say, okay, this is a violation of this policy. I'm going to close it, or what? So you have a ability to go and exempt a resource from being acted upon. So that is called exception management. You can request for an exception, and then if that resource is exempted, it will not be actioned upon by PacBot. However, it will be assessed continuously. So when the exception expires, it will go and fix it again. So that capability is there in PacBot. Yeah. So these are the PacBot GitHub repo link. This is our open source website where we have many other projects which are open sourced on serverless, Jazz, and everything. Probably you guys can just. Okay. That's good. So yeah. So I don't have a lot of slides on this now. Probably I want to open it for questions. Yeah, and sure, and we can have a discussion.
So I actually just read the documentation yesterday. If I understand correctly, if we want to use PacBot today, we have to install it and host it by yourself.
That's correct. It's not a SaaS.
This is actually amazing, too. But I'm pretty, maybe a little bit greedy. So my question is T-Mobile planning to maybe host this software and just offer it to the end user as a service? So we can just maybe pay a little bit subscription fee. But I don't want to deal with patching, installation, manage the resource.
Nick would be the right person to answer that question.
Especially for small company.
So what I could say is, like back in 2015, is actually when the idea started. The two guys who had the idea were like writing down, and they instantly said, "Yeah, this will work for your product." And so I'll talk a little bit later maybe about open source. We see that there is potential there, but it's still very early days.
So the cost of what we are trying right now is we are trying to trim down PacBot because we built it for enterprise initially, but now we want small companies to use it. So we are trimming down the heavy lifts. For example, we have recently took the Redshift piece off from PacBot. So we are trying to make it as slim as possible so that small companies can install it and use it. Yeah, so that is already taken care. And for a typical account, probably the cost of this, as we assessed last, with some maybe hundreds of resources, $40 a day is what the cost we saw. Yeah, that's not good. Yeah.
Do you ever look like a free version for academy?
It's free.
No, you can host it. Let's try.
It's open source, so it's anyways free.
$40 a day, that's a point worth making. You would not use PacBot to monitor your free tier accounts, 5 servers.
Right.
Because the cost of monitoring is going to be more than the cost of your servers.
Right.
The $40 a day is what it costs us minimum just to run the infrastructure that gives us the EC2 classes.
Yep.
We'll work on slimming that down. But like Kamal said, for us, this is basically a big data problem for us, and the risk profile is way more costly than $40 or more a day that we spend in order to.
Yeah, for us the cost is of course more because we have hundreds of resources. I'm saying for a typical installation, that is the minimum cost, which even if you're not scanning anything, will be there. Yeah.
So why would a small company use this? What would be the advantage to them to use this?
So anybody who wants to make sure that their cloud is secure, because with cloud you don't want to compromise just because you have cloud. One, you don't want to use that as just another data center. You want to have agility in your organization, right? You want people to create resources, use them, and use them with responsibility. But that doesn't happen all the time. So if you want somebody, there is a monitoring system which is monitoring all your resources, making sure that they are compliant all the time. Then you use PacBot.
I would say it's not really the size of your company. Like you could be 3 guys in the garage and not need it because you have service just started and you have just a handful of servers. But if you suddenly explode and your brand new social media service that you created now has thousands of teams or dozens of accounts, then you're going to need it. I would say like a brand new small guy that's starting probably is not going to use that on day. It's not going to be need to do it at a certain scale.
Yeah.
There's an online question. Does it come with default rule sets or predefined rules?
Yes.
Before and client define the rules for the data sets for S3 buckets, etc.
Yes. So there are right now in the open source version there are 40 or 50 rules which are already there. They are default set of rules, and then we will be open sourcing another 40 or 50. So it does come with. Anybody else? Yeah.
For example, to detect, for example, instead of separate report for the against different kind of attacks, you have this really centralized, for example, and you could use one attack and check from other example. about them that like more easily to get to the browser side.
I kind of got your point. That is basically, yeah, you're saying, so if there is an attack and there's a pattern in data, I should learn that and then I should publish that as that this can be attack vector, right? Okay, that's a nice, that's a good idea though. Yeah, we don't do it right now. We don't publicize the threats we detected in the system. But yeah, that's a good idea. I'll take that. Yep.
But extra credit for you if you go sign up and add that.
So yeah, sure. That's a nice idea. I would appreciate that. So what you can do is you can go to GitHub in there, just create a feature request, and we will be able to do something. Yeah, that's a nice thing.
Is there any other organization that you're aware of that has already been this framework?
This PacBot, there are at least 15.
Yeah. We have heard through various channels a good dozen plus companies that are in some stage that might be talking, looking at it, running up proof of concept to in production.
Yeah.
So, a little bit of perspective. I'm also the head of the open source working group team also. So our team evangelizes internally the idea of open source. And we started just over, it was a year ago this October, last year, that we then started the open source journey with our first product. And PacBot in the first few weeks got more stars on GitHub than all of the other ones I hope that. So I think there was just a very good fit.
Also, this is my classical question. Okay, so you declare this one is the open source.
That's
your
good.
source code.
That's good.
Also, how you can guarantee your source code is also secure?
So
In terms of the feature, everything. That's my strong problem.
yeah, so we T-Mobile is a wireless company, but before that we are a technology company. So we make sure that the code we are writing. So usually, right, in a software development process, you check your codes against Sonar and everything else. That is what we do, and we make sure that there are no evident bugs and no loopholes in the code. We try to make no code can be 100% bug free. Of course, there will be some holes, but we make sure that we run all the scanning tools which are possible on the top of code before publishing.
So you asked an interesting question, but there's a scarier version of that question that I don't know how many folks are here from cybersecurity. It's one thing for me to have a bug in PacBot that makes PacBot not as effective at making your stuff, whatever that is. But when you start getting into the open source world, the thing that really keeps me awake at night is how do I make sure that we don't accidentally leave some secret, some T-Mobile access key, something that will give you admin access to T-Mobile's account by accident.
Yeah.
And that's an entirely different class of problem that we also try to tackle with both tools and just plain software development.
And usually it's not a public-facing product. Usually you don't expose it over a public endpoint. So the threats are not those. Like OS top 10 is not a problem for PacBot usually, but the code scans we do for making sure that code is quality and not having the obvious problems in the terms of security.
If there are no questions,
Yeah.
we move on.
Nick, yeah. So sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There is one last question. Yes.
Oh, there is a question.
I want to know about how does it provide automation and transparency in the performance services?
So what that I mean
How
what
does it provide automation and transparency
Transparency?
in performance?
in performance?
Yeah.
Performance of what?
About the PacBot. So how does it see that whether the code what is provided is automatic or how to check the quality of the code?
Oh, so for example, right? So if you have been coding, so do you know Sonar, check style, and all these find bugs? No. Okay, so these are the tools. These are the open source tools: Sonar, Check Style, and Find Bugs, which you can run on top of your source code.
I know Firefox.
It's Find Bugs. Yeah. So you can run on top of your source code to see all these problems in your code. Yeah. You just run it. It will show you this is the problem.
Are you guys using any automation tool also to check the performance, like Selenium and all?
Yeah, we do. We write automated test cases using.
So you have a team of QA also.
Yes, we do.
Used to check all this
Yes,
and all.
yes. We have a team of QA, and then we write automated test cases which checks during the build time. It will check that whether everything is.
And that is like in Java language or like every language you are using?
Selenium, usually we have written it using Jasmine, which is a subset of JS. Yeah, it's a different thing than usual. Yeah, but all the unit test cases, they are written in Java because most of the code is in Java. And Python. Some of it is in Python. Thank you.
Thank you.
Encourage you to pick Kamal's brain separately too, because Kamal really leveled up our open source test automation effort because he saw this exact need here, which was how do you maintain the quality as you start to scale up? If you suddenly have a successful project, it becomes a happy problem, but a real problem to make sure that as external folks are doing pull requests, you have the ways to actually accept those requests and not take forever doing it because you're not confident that the code is good. So it's an interesting problem we have globally for all of our open source. So I'll just take a few minutes and then we'll hang out for a little bit if there's more questions. But again, just to introduce myself, I'm Criss, and I'm the senior manager for the cloud platform services and security team. So we build this and a lot of other cool software. But I like to think of that as my day job, which is being able to build really cool stuff. But my night job has been really things like this and trying to get the word out that T-Mobile's not this mobile company that occasionally does something interesting in tech. We're a technology company first that happens to do mobile. You're going to see later this year we do TV. We actually do banking and a lot of other things you probably haven't heard of. And it's often surprising to folks. Like, we had no idea you guys did any of this other stuff, and that's like part of the problem that we're trying to attack by going out here into the world and sharing some of the stuff we work on. And so we look at the fact that every day we're creating really cool, innovative stuff in T-Mobile, and for years and years and years it was just kind of dark, like a lot of large companies. Not only can we get better results out of our software, build better products, and get more value for T-Mobile directly by building in the open source, because I believe wholeheartedly that world-class software development really is open source development, at least at the best levels. They've solved a bunch of the problems by necessity that you have a hard time solving in large enterprises. But beyond that, if we can share all of this goodness with the world, we can get folks like you excited, and someone who maybe would only have looked at Facebook or Google will maybe come in and talk to T-Mobile and see that some of the things we're working on are pretty darn cool. And PacBot, we could deep dive. I could see Kamal's gears churning, because any one of those little boxes could be like a 2-hour conversation on there. But what's interesting, kind of beyond the technical details, is the philosophy that goes behind this. Because it's a pretty straightforward problem, and in fact, you're seeing now some other folks come into this space, this idea of doing rules engine. But I think we have kind of a little bit of a secret sauce on, or a little bit of a difference in the kind of the background philosophy and perspective we take, which is when the team that started the cloud practice at T-Mobile actually all came from the Seattle community of startups and small businesses and stuff. We got there and we recognized pretty quickly that you can't solve enterprise problems the exact same way you used to when you were in a garage, or when you could literally get the entire company in a conference room and all argue and yell, and when the argument was done, you had a decision. You can't do that anymore in large companies. There's very real differences when you're a publicly traded company, when you have all sorts of legal requirements. But the spirit of being entrepreneurial, of being a startup, you can use that to influence your ideas and the way you attack things. And PacBot's a perfect example. I think it's probably the best example of all the products we've done in the last couple of years, because you take this original process that nobody's questioned for 50 years or more, like since we've had these modern companies, of you have policies, and then they might be super important policies, but what you would do, like the old way you do a T-Mobile, you do any kind of compliance piece, is to say, get a bunch of people in a room, have them argue over what the policy should be, and then write it down in a Word doc. And then that description will be ambiguous, but don't worry about that because it's going to get uploaded to SharePoint and forgotten after that anyways, so it doesn't really matter. But let's make it even more miserable. Yes, you're going to run an audit, okay? We're going to do an audit. We're going to go find that document and read it. And we're going to pay an army of auditors a very large sum of money to prove that we're compliant with that ambiguous description at some point in the past, which, as you're trying to be faster and faster and really maximize fertility, is pointless anyways, right? Nobody's questioned that model for years, and we said, let's flip this on its head. If the main reason we're in cloud is to maximize agility, then you have to let everybody go first. You have to default on, right? So how can you work backwards from that and say that not only do I want to maximize the agility, but I actually want to do it in a way that when we solve this problem, we're safer and we're more secure and more compliant than you would have been in the old model. And so a lot of times folks just can't see the forest for the trees because we're used to the old way that we're doing it. So our team in particular and the folks that are kind of going down this path, we're trying to say, let's always question kind of all these baseline assumptions. And sometimes we can come up with something that is revolutionary instead of just evolutionary or incremental, and redefine the problem in a way that lets us make some kind of breakthrough. And so if you folks are interested in career paths that can kind of blend those two worlds, I spent most of my career in small companies and loved it and thought I would never, ever in a million years go to a big company. I'll tell you that if you can find the right company, you can find the right teams, you actually can have a great experience, right? Because one of the downsides of the smaller companies is, yeah, you have infinite control and everybody can kind of see everything, but your resources and often your reach is much smaller, right? You go to a big company and number one, you're instantly at mega scale. You're affecting millions to tens of millions of customers. And from a resource perspective, you have the tools to get a lot more done if you can somehow harness that ability to keep that spark of that startup attitude. So with that, I'll maybe stop for a little bit. What I will say is if you are interested in any of this stuff, go to opensource.t-mobile.com. You'll see my contact info with others there. Connect to us on LinkedIn, star us on GitHub, and we would encourage you to connect with us. And now I'm being shuttled off the stage.
Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm Ellie. I used to be a student here, and I'm a product manager with Kamal. So our next speakers are going to be Kelsey, England, and Katie is also a recruiter. Both of them are recruiters, so they will talk about their problem.
Yeah. Hey everyone.
Hey.
So what year is everyone in school? You're all getting your bachelor's, master's? Masters? Awesome, cool. So I help run the TechX programs at T-Mobile, so it's individuals early in their career, either getting their bachelor's or master's for the summer internship that we have. So I have some flyers in the back for you if you want to grab them, then you can check out our website to see what positions we have open. I will be here to chat with all of you. So feel free to come by and chat with me about early career opportunities, or the lovely Kate back there can talk to you about other opportunities we have. We are a very large company, so there's always many diverse roles for you to check out, work with us on.
Thank you.
My team, if you're interested in my team has brought in the last 12 months 4 people.
Yes, yeah. If you wanna talk to a manager about the type of work specifically, Nick's your guy. He is a huge champion for the program, so if you want to know manager side of things, what the work is day to day, Nick and Allie actually would be a great resource to talk to you about that.
Thank you.
Is the other recruiter going to talk?
That's it.
So we have small gifts for our guests. So please come up. Because we want to promote TDU too.
Photo ops.
Yes, would you please come the five? I heard the 5 people from T-Mobile. Please come. Yes. Yes. No, everybody come. The class come here. Then. You know what? Whenever you drink a coffee, this direction, okay?
Bringing back from
Thank you. Thank you so much. Also, I heard among the 1 over 5, one person graduated from CDU. Am I correct? There's alumni here. Why don't you give a big clap? We have an MBA student. Also, we have a cybersecurity student. Also, is there any faculty? Please raise your hand. The staff. Yes. Which program? Talk about your program. Simply introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm in charge of the Bachelor of Science in the Administration.
Yes. He is charging the largest program. I'm charging the smartest program. Yes. Sorry. Okay. No, we are doing both. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So we have a cybersecurity and everything. Because of that, I appreciate that. Also, I want to tell you, my student is the best in this world. Do you know that? Because I'm teaching here. Second, they are studying here. Third, I'm teaching what others are not teaching. Bachelor of Software Security, Cybersecurity, we are doing that. So why don't you give a big hand to this audience? Oh, you have to put the picture, okay?
We should just say too, this is the second time in this team, and you guys are fantastic hosts.
So second time, next time, hire more alumni than they are sitting here. Okay. Yes. It's done? Okay, now you can go home. Okay. Thanks so much.
Again, thank you everyone for coming. Stay a while and talk to our guests. Don't waste the opportunity. And take care on your way home. Good night.
Good night.
I should